welcome to Fireside Chats. I'm Jordan, this is Alex, and we've got some other people.
Hi, I'm other people.
This is Ricky Chapman.
I was looking at flight radar and looking at just the sheer number of flights in the air at any given time.
Absolutely.
There's also one for ships. Mm-hmm. You can look and see how many ships are traversing the ocean. Ships are a little different. There's certain channels. They can't just go anywhere based on how deep the ship is and the shallowness of the water or whatever. Right. We talked a lot about the 9 ships that were parked out.
Port of Nagoya. So there's a ransomware attack at the port of Nagoya in Japan, and it shut down their I don't remember the exact name, but it was like their terminal management system, and it was down for 2 days. But in those 2 days, there were just 9 ships that were just circling, sitting out there because they could not get in.
Because in 2 days, they're coming in more goods. The goods keep coming just because you can't bring them in.
Yeah, and you just can't like tell a ship like, hey, go to another port, right? Like, you know, with planes, at least you can say like, hey, you know, land at this airport. We'll figure out another way, right? Yeah. But the ships, they were just sitting there for 9 ships were sitting there for 2 days. That's a lot of goods. I mean, these are massive container ships, right? Or they weren't all container, but like these are massive ships with a lot of goods, and they cannot get in, right?
Yeah, so what if those are perishable?
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, if those are perishables, because everything is like on time, right? Everything is designed to be just have enough supplies until you run out, and then the next group of supplies will come, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you disrupt that, right, you now have people who are suffering those consequences, right? We saw that Port of Nagoya, 9 ships were there. We saw that when the not the Gaza Strait, the one in Egypt. Why am I blanking on it? It will come back to me. But when the Evergreen ship got stuck there, right?
I feel like that was closer to us for some reason.
Well, so an Evergreen ship got stuck in 2 places. One, it got stuck in Maryland in Chesapeake.
That's the one I was thinking of.
And then also got stuck in the
canal.
The canal.
Suez
Canal. Thank you.
Woo!
It got stuck in the Suez Canal.
The struggle is real.
And the amount that backed up, right? Mm-hmm. That was just a mistake by the person, but the amount of like second and third order effects of damage that had.
Allegedly, he was texting and shipping.
Oh,
shouldn't do that.
I'm serious. That was texting and shipping.
But I mean, that had crazy second and third order effects in Maryland, right? Like when it was stuck in the Chesapeake Bay, ships could get around, but it was still environmental issues. But also,
it was a nuisance. Really,
yeah,
it was more of a nuisance. Yeah.
You know, you were mentioning trains, like. Trains are stuck on the path they're going. Ships, they're kind of hard to turn around sometimes, right? If you need to turn those things around, or you need to quickly move out of a way.
There is no quick for some of those ships.
There's no quick for some of those ships.
You can just take quick out of that sentence.
Yeah, and we're also seeing, you know, as geopolitical tensions rise, the shipping industry is one of the primary targets. We're seeing that in the Strait of Hormuz in Iran. Yep. We saw that around Somalia with pirates. We're seeing that in the Russia-Ukraine war. People think that out in the middle of the ocean, a ship is safe, right? But there's still adversaries out there, and if you shut down shipping GPS, I think it's in the Navy, they still teach people how to navigate by the stars just in case something goes down, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the case with commercial shipping, right? I hope it is. But if you shut down their systems and a ship doesn't know where it's going, that's thousands of miles away from somewhere, right?
I think the part that kills me more about some of these ships that we're talking about here is, you mentioned it already, pirates? Guys, we still have pirates.
Yeah.
I don't think the majority of the civilized world puts recognition on the fact that people will still live out in whatever remote locations they do, right? And go and jump onto ships, steal items off of these ships, or steal the whole ship.
They ransom the ship.
Ransom the whole ship, right? And then like take the goods, and they're off to sea.
Yeah, that makes me think of our Coast Guard brothers and sisters that are out there
fighting that fight,
protecting our waterways. That kind of stuff is real. I know in the U.S. itself and in our borders, we don't typically hear about piracy, but out, as you mentioned, in Somalia and some of those areas, certainly still do. And so the impact of, say, like the U.S. Coast Guard in our transportation sector, and not just in protection of that waterway, but they're saving lives, right? They're out there with ships in distress, folks that have capsized. You guys see, I'm sure you all see this on the news all the time, where there's folk trying, immigrants trying to illegally enter the U.S. and they're in whatever makeshift raft they can make and try to cross these expansive waterways. And it's our Coast Guard folk that are out there really saving lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's interesting though is, so I grew up on the Mississippi, and the Coast Guard had one of the biggest tasks there, which is keeping barge traffic flowing up and down the Mississippi. That was their main thing, is keeping the barges moving. Because as much as we think of external waterways, right, like the oceans and the massive ships going, if you shut down the barge systems on the Mississippi, you're shutting down a major channel of goods, right?
I didn't think I ever thought about
I
that.
didn't think
Right,
about
like
that either.
keeping the barge lines open. If you shut those down, or trees block the ways for those
So
barges.
storms and definitely lots of weather effects are a really big effect for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so like it's not something you really think about unless you like live on the Mississippi or you grew up there and you watch these barges go out all the time. But yeah, I mean, not just external, but those internal waterways. The Coast Guard is busy protecting those, but if those are shut down, that's a lot of goods that are not being shipped places.
That's wild to think about.